Welcome to the podcast, Neighbors Don't Knock, the show where two neighbors drop by for conversations that are fun, relevant, and downright hilarious. Join them and special guests in their mission to talk about anything and everything and laugh about it no matter what. Now, here's your hosts, Brian Chambers and Philip Goffrey.
What's going on, Philip? How are you, man?
I'm okay, man. I'm all right.
I'm glad to see that you're feeling better. I know
Thanks.
I know you've been
there.
a little bit under the weather lately.
Yeah, thanks. I'm getting there. My voice is still not 100%, but I'm trying. You know, if I do the 2 taps, it means I'm going to break out coughing. So
I will try to not be in my own world and and notice all the tapping going on. The
taparoo.
Taparoo. Just a little tappy taparoo. Anyway, welcome guys to Neighbors Don't Knock. If you're joining us for the first time, we'd like to say welcome and hit that subscribe button and follow us because we drop new episodes every Friday. But you've tuned into a show where we unapologetically have conversations as neighbors as we attempt to discover new neighborhoods and expand our own neighborhood with guests and some hilarious, relevant, and all kinds of just banter, so you're not going to want to miss them. You can also check out previous episodes of our show. Go back and listen to seasons 1, 2, and 3, as well as this current season of season 4, because we are on episode 19.
The penultimate. We're on the penultimate episode of the season.
Yeah, I guess.
You like that word?
Yeah, I do like that word. I was trying to contemplate something clever to tag onto it. I was like, no, I got nothing. Thank you, Webster.
Penultimate, the second to last.
But today being Friday the 13th, we're going to get into some unlucky conversations, I guess, or topics.
I hope not. I hope they're not too unlucky, but I am excited to talk about it because it occurred to me that we were going to drop this episode today. I had no idea how Friday the 13th came to be, and I decided to look it up.
Well, all right. Well, let's educate me and everybody else listening.
Well, this might surprise you and our listeners, but like everything else on the great World Wide Web, when it comes down to history, there are differing opinions about exactly when 13 truly became known as an unlucky number. But because we're complete Marvel geeks and because we recently had our friends from Beyond the Mouse on the show, which, by the way, if you have not checked out that episode, please go back and listen to it. It's about everything Disney in every regard.
Everything Disney and more.
Exactly.
And more. And big shout out to Beyond the Mouse podcast. What's up, guys?
Yeah. So my favorite kind of origin story, if you will, about Friday the 13th, or at least the 13 being the unlucky number.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to have to go past the horror movie, right?
Yeah.
Are you in like Greek mythology or ancient Egypt?
Well, hang on. Norse, actually.
Oh, yeah. That was it. Actually,
hence the Marvel reference.
Yes, I did find that it was Loki because there's really 2 superstitions about it.
Well, there are. So with the Norse superstition, I guess the story goes that with the Norse superstition about it, the story goes that 12 gods got together in Valhalla for a dinner.
Yes.
And of course,
and Loki was the 13th.
Right. Loki wasn't invited and he decided to crash the party. And quite frankly, props to Disney and Marvel because they get that kind of mischiefy sort of thing correct because it's totally something that our friend, the film, MCU Loki would do, right? Is crash the party. But the best part is he crashes the party and then he arranges for Odin's blind son to shoot another god with an arrow and kill him dead at the party. And that's how it becomes known as unlucky.
Yeah, but they're all gods. I thought you couldn't kill a god.
Well,
I guess gods can kill each other. Okay, that makes more sense.
Again, it goes back to the Marvel movies. Remember when Loki challenges Thor?
That's true.
They think we're gods. Should we test them? It's quite wonderful.
Well, it's really very similar to the other one. If you go a little bit, I guess, later, in more, I call it biblical times.
Again, the Christian mythology.
It's the Christian mythology, and it was Judas that was
number 13.
Number 13 to the Last Supper, and of course, the whole Judas betrayed, Jesus and all of this.
So this is why I love these ancient sort of historical references because this is where the Norse traditions and the Christian traditions show their There are differences in like general mentality, right? In the Norse tradition, like people are shooting each other with arrows at the dinner. in the Christian,
Well, yeah, because that weapons were allowed at the table.
right? In the Christian tradition, Judas shows up, and then the next day Christ dies. So it's like, oh, that became unlucky. But
It's like, well, we need to be civil first.
yeah,
right?
totally.
But how do they know? First of all, I truly believe that Judas was a real person. Whether the stories in the Bible and everything is 100%
Sure.
accurate. That's a long,
deep rabbit hole.
Exactly, right? So how do they really know he was the 13th? I mean, would it have been weird if he was like 12, and Peter was the 13th, but like he snuck in or something? It's like, no, dude, it was Judas.
So they had numbers.
They wore their tests.
Seating chart.
That's right.
I've seen the painting. It's very specifically laid out. But that's why they're not shooting each other with arrows at the actual dinner, right? Because in the Christian mythology, it's like, hang on, I'm doing something really fun with wine here. Give me a second. Watch this water cup. It's just this is going to be really neat.
It's a cool party trick, guys. You don't want to miss this one.
Wait for it. So we got that from Wikipedia. But if you look at history.com, they get a little bit deeper into this. They start with the Christian mythology as the reason for 13 being an unlucky number. Now, where Friday comes into it is actually quite interesting. It's not the 1980s Jason movies, believe it or not. That's not what made it unlucky. In 1907, there was a publication of a novel called Friday the 13th. And that was about a stockbroker who played on superstitions about that particular date to create, quote unquote, chaos on Wall Street and sort of manipulate the stock market in his favor. So it was really 1907 forward when all of a sudden Friday becomes associated with the 13th, and Friday the 13th, as today is, becomes the date and sort of tradition we love so much in pop culture.
Yeah, well, and then of course the movies helped make it that, oh my gosh, and the Friday the 13th typically comes around twice to 3 times a year.
I think that's about right.
I think it's about 3 times a year.
I suppose it depends on the leap year, right?
And there's you can play. I'll share a few things that I found about it. The death of Tupac was on Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah, the list of unlucky things.
Things that happened. Yeah. The Buckingham Palace bombing.
I think it's funny
in 1940.
He's on an island.
He is not.
No, I don't think so. I think he's dead as well. I'm sorry, the bombing, you said?
Yeah, the Buckingham Palace bombing in 1940. So that also happened. I mean, there's also the very infamous plane crash that fell into the Andes Mountains, and it was very disturbing because there was very few survivors, and those that did survive, they couldn't get anywhere. They were pretty much stuck where they were, and so it was said to believe that they ate, they did the dead people, right?
Great book, great movie.
Yeah. So cannibalism kind of that happened, So that was in the early 70s, I believe, is when it actually happened. I think it was.
I think you're right.
Or 1970, Friday the 13th.
Football team. Rugby team?
Yes, yeah. It was a rugby team that crashed in the Andes Mountains, and said initially 12 died from the crash. The next day, 5 additional passengers died, and 1 more 8 days later.
Yep. Pop culture tip, if y'all want to have some fun with this one, I use this quite frequently when I'm up in New England during the winter. If you're ever facing a particularly windy, snowy day and there's a lot of people around, just shout, "We have to get to the other half of the plane," and see how many people turn around and look at you. You'll know right away if they get it.
That's not funny, man.
It's really funny.
It's not funny because someone's gonna freak out.
No, tragic story. Really funny to see how people react to it. It's pretty good.
Okay, now this one I did find, and I thought this one was really kind of bizarre. Not really disturbing, but more bizarre. It was in 2010, and the story says that a 13-year-old was struck by lightning at exactly 13:13, so military time. So at 1:13, this 13-year-old was struck by lightning on Friday the 13th. And so the headline was talk about your bad luck.
I'm thinking in a previous life he buried 13 people in his backyard. I'm just saying right now because that's a little bit uncanny.
I hate to laugh at that, but it really kind of is.
It's okay. It's not too soon.
It's not too soon.
It's okay.
So those are just a couple of things. Of course, everyone has their own stories, but we talked about the whole where did the bad luck come in with it, but there is like Egyptians and a lot of other people consider 13 a good number and a very lucky number.
As do I. Would you like to hear a good 13 story?
I would actually.
My wife and I met on the 13th floor of our office building before we started dating. That's how we met.
Okay.
It had a floor 13 actually registered on the elevator and everything because lots of buildings won't do that.
Yeah, that's true. They skipped the 13.
They skipped that. And she was living in an apartment number 13 when we met. And that was the first apartment we shared together.
My high school number for my water polo number was 13.
Oh, very nice.
So I shouldn't say it really wasn't lucky, but
that explains your water polo career.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it didn't bring me bad luck.
that we know of.
That's true. But then think about all the other things. Okay, there's 4 seasons, and we have 13 weeks in each season. Right? Okay. Children become teenagers at age 13.
In some cultures.
That's true.
I mean, well, that's not true. In all cultures, 13 is 18.
Yeah.
But
but considered, yes, I know you're going with that. There are approximately 13 cycles of the moon each year.
Okay, interesting.
So, also Apollo 13 was not a failure or a tragic incident, I should say. That it's a successful failure is what they called it. And that was
a good recovery.
Yeah.
It was a good recovery.
Prohibition in the United States lasted 13 years.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing because had it lasted a lot longer, we wouldn't be having our show today.
No.
So
good thing for the average Joe when it ended, not so good for the bootleggers, right?
That's
because
true.
Prohibition gave rise to modern gangsters and
that's true. There are 13 cards in each suit in the hand of playing cards, a deck of playing cards. And also aluminum has an atomic number of 13.
And I love aluminum.
There you go.
Who doesn't love aluminum? It's light, it's strong, it's amazing.
It's what most water bottles these days are.
It's amazing. People are really funny. People get so weirded out by the whole superstition deal, right? And when it comes down to 13, I like this. Before it became Friday the 13th, when 13 was just the unlucky number, there was actually a group in New York founded by a guy named Captain William Fowler, who personally...
I will never remember that.
Neither will I. He personally sought
foul name
to remove the stigma around the number 13 and started a society called the 13 Club. Right?
I see this failing miserably.
Dude, so they would get together. They would have only 13 guests at a dinner table, and they would only meet on dates surrounding the number 13. So like the 13th day of the month and things like that. They would dine.
But what if you have an issue?
And they would dine in room number 13 of the Knickerbocker Cottage.
I was like, where are you going with that?
Which is a bar that, Fowler happened to own. So props to him for coming up with a way to get people in the door. And they would sit down to a 13-course dinner.
See, I'm thinking this is more of an elaborate marketing scheme that it was like a niche market that he found and just capitalized on it.
This gets even better, though. He forced members to pass beneath a ladder as they walked in for the dinner.
Holding a black cat or
underneath
whatever.
the banner that read Morituri te salutamus, which is Latin for those of us who are about to die salute you.
Yeah, see, that's some cult shit right there. I'm just like,
but don't you love the fact that people were so worked up by the number 13 that he had to create a society to try to like sell it?
No. See, he didn't have to create a society.
Chose to as a marketing ploy. I agree.
He chose to create a society,
but it was risque, right? It was so clever because people were 13, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah, they were drinking the Kool-Aid. Yeah. I know. I mean, okay, and I don't want to knock anybody for their superstitions. I mean,
I do.
I mean, I'm not going. Well, maybe we should.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying. I have in the theater. You say break a leg, and you have superstitions. The play that should not be named, and things like that. Athletes have superstitions. Where they have a winning streak. They don't change their socks or other weird.
That's disgusting.
I'm not saying that they're good superstitions, but I'm just saying people have them. So I don't knock anyone for the fact that they have something that they believe helps them. either with good luck or if they try to avoid bad luck. I don't know. We can laugh at it because there's a lot of them that I admit to myself that I'm like, that's stupid. And even ones that I partake in, I'm like, this is kind of stupid.
I spent a little over 10 days sailing on a large schooner out of Boston Harbor up around Maine and back down years back. Believe it or not. I know, believe it or not. And I made the mistake my first day aboard the ship of whistling. You ever whistle on a ship?
No.
It was a miracle. The captain and the chief mate didn't throw me overboard.
I'm still trying to get over. I'm still trying to get over the fact that you were on a ship.
Yeah, a big one, a sailboat made out of wood. It was terrifying. Brian Chambers.
It was made out of wood.
It was utterly horrifying. Yeah.
Wood sinks, but so does metal.
Yeah, everything sinks, and I don't have gills. So, yeah, it was not a fun experience.
Wait, how long ago was this, though?
I was 17 or 18.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere in there.
I was picturing this in the last
18.
couple years.
I was
okay.
18. Yeah.
So a while ago. I was picturing you like a couple of years ago. I was like, wait, when the hell did you go on a boat?
Yeah, 98.
Why would you have not told me about it? Because you would have been ranting and raving about how ludicrous that was that you were on a boat.
It was ludicrous. It was absurd. I actually almost killed everybody on board one night, but that's a story for another day.
They told you not to play with the harpoon guns.
They put me in charge of sonar and radar. What were they thinking? Horrible idea.
How do you kill anyone with being in charge of sonar?
You don't pay attention, and there's a car carrier coming at you in the middle of a night sail.
Well, that will do it.
Yeah, it did. It did almost do it. We were almost toothpicks. It was bad.
13 degrees to the left.
There it is. There's the 13. Very good. Very, very good. That'd be port, by the way, but well done.
It would be port. Yes, that's right.
Indeed, depending on which way you're facing.
Yeah. Yeah. Starboard is right. Yeah. Port is left.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're facing the ship's wheel, don't think that left is port. Otherwise, you might be turning the wrong way into that car carrier.
For all the nautical enthusiasts out there, yes, we will be correct in those directions. Indeed. But that's about it as far as, that and the jib boom,
Indeed. Much like when people ask me how old I am, I have to back the math out because I can never remember. I actually can never remember port and starboard. But I always remember that left and port both have 4 letters in the word, and then it clicks.
Oh my gosh, I just got a headache listening to that. Like trying to put that in, like how analytical you are on that thought.
Hex on you, sir. With your lucky clover hat and not believing in superstition.
Did you like it? I did. I wore some luck.
All right, there, luck of the Irish.
That's right. Okay.
So I ask you before we move on from this segment. Then, so Friday the 13th. Obviously, we grew up in the '80s, so we're big. 80s horror story. I don't know if we're fans.
Yeah, I don't go near a lake. I don't go near a lake when I'm camping.
Yeah, bad idea.
In the night. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're a sinner, you're screwed. He's coming after you. But Jason aside, do we think that these superstitions are fading? I don't hear a lot about Friday the 13th and number 13 anymore.
Well, I mean, fading. Come on, how far? We've already talked about how far they go back.
Yeah, they've endured a long time.
Yeah.
But do you hear it? When I was a kid, I used to hear it. I used to hear people talk about like, "Ooh, don't do 13. It's not lucky." And now I never really hear about it.
I don't know if it's anything that as a society we kind of embellish. I feel like when we were growing up, it was a bigger deal, and I don't know. I could be wrong. I absolutely could be wrong, and correct me, viewers and listeners, if I am wrong. But I don't think that it is as publicized now.
I feel like it's not too. Yeah, I feel like it's sort of the digital age has taken a bit of this from us. Right?
I think so, and there's so much and so many things going on that it may still be out there. I'm sure it is because we're talking about it. Everyone has a segment about Friday the 13th, I'm sure.
Yeah, there might be cultural differences too. Like my wife has all kinds of superstitions that I had never heard of in the West that she grew up with in the East. That she still like. I can't kiss her across a door jamb, for example. Evidently, that's like terrible luck. I have no idea why.
Oh, well, that's true. I remember when I was in visiting Beijing in China, I was going through some of the older buildings and historic buildings, and they have this big, through a doorway, they have it's blocked off, like you have to step over the door to get in to walk through it, right? And I asked about that, And I was like, why do they? Because all the doors were like that. But it's because ghosts don't have feet. So they can't step over it. So that way, when you go into a room, the ghost would stop at the door.
So in Asian culture, ghosts like slither along the ground.
I guess, or
in Western culture,
spirit.
they sort of would float
I shouldn't
right
say
over
ghosts.
it, right?
Ghosts may be incorrect to say, but spirits or anything like that, they don't have legs to step over. So that stops them.
Wow. Yeah.
So like we were talking about, like a lot of cultural differences, a lot of superstitions that other people believe, and some people are just freaking nuts.
It's true. Another one my wife does whenever I forget something.
I say that with love, listeners.
Indeed.
I say that with love.
If ever I forget something when I'm leaving the house, I have to go back in to get it. I have to make a funny face in a mirror. Don't know why. Or it's bad luck. No idea. I like the ghost without the feet thing better personally.
If I trip over your front door coming in the next time, I swear.
How many Westerners do you think go visit where you were in Asia and just fall right on their face, tripping over the damn doors all the time? I would.
Considering it was...
hi, guys.
Well, considering it was the Forbidden City, which is pretty popular, quite a bit.
Yeah. I'd say so.
Quite a bit that go.
Yeah.
So
forbidden if you don't pay the entry fee.
Well, they had a Starbucks in the Forbidden City. I think.
Did they really?
Yeah.
That is absolutely wonderful.
It got shut down. I believe it got shut down
by Emperor's decree. The Emperor says the Starbucks is now closed.
Get the bow and arrows. Okay.
Feetless spirit. I just don't even get it.
All right. Before we go on, let's have a word from our sponsor. Neighbors Don't Knock is produced by C&G Communications. C&G specializes in small batch voiceover and video production for commercial media, podcasting, radio, and more. Combining years of experience in acting, podcasting, and sales, C&G offers big media products at small business prices. To learn more, visit our Facebook page or email us directly at admin@neighborsdon'tknock.com. So our second segment, Philip, that I want to get in today is a little bit more local here to our Houston area.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I like it.
I know, and it's kind of one that ties into a little bit of the neighborhood. There was a capacity crowd at NRG recently, and this comedian and singer was performing down there. And after the show, he went to another place. Like he went to another bar. Yeah, like another bar. And in fact, he went out to an outdoor patio at bar 5015, which is on Alameda. It's I've never been there, but anytime you have a patio bar, and especially where there's close residential areas, it can get a bunch of noise and a lot of ruckus, man. And there was this guy who wrote in and told the Houston Chronicle, he had to wear construction grade earplugs to try to go to sleep, to keep the booming and all this stuff, from all the party and the sound and everything, just to try to get some sleep. And so now what they're trying to do is they're trying to change the policies for neighborhood ordinances and city ordinances for bars and clubs and things like that. They're proposing amendments for the city council to consider, and it's going to say businesses within 300 feet of a home would be required to obtain newly created commercial sound permit to play and amplify music up to 75 decibels until 10 p.m. on weeknights or 11 p.m. on weekends. Sound above 75 decibels, about as loud as landscaping equipment, heard from inside a house, has been shown to cause hearing damage over time.
It does. That's for sure, 100%.
So, and so it's saying after those cutoffs, music would have to stay below 58 decibels until 2 a.m. So I don't know. Do you think this is going to pass? I mean, you think about it because we're inside the loop. We're here. For those of you that don't know Houston, we're pretty close to a lot of the action of things that go on and several different, not even just clubs, bars, and restaurants, but very close neighbors on top of us.
I think that, okay, so
we're not even talking patio bars. You could be like your next door neighbor, throwing a rager.
Right. So do I think it'll pass? I have no idea. I hope it does, quite frankly. So
does it make us sound like
Old
old,
funny.
and yeah, exactly, right? Or do you think it's a legit thing because you're seeing a lot of new places in our area that are popping up with all these random new, like it become all of a sudden it's like an old house and now it's a bar, or it was this old building and now they just turned it into a restaurant. Yeah, it's very close to all living like residential areas.
Yeah, I think for anybody who's not living with this, yes, we most certainly sound like old, boring fuddy-duddies and freaking fascists, and we can't play our music late at
Those
night.
young kids.
Yeah. Turn it down. But to educate people who do not live in Houston, Houston basically has zero zoning. We do not.
That's the other part of it, though. Yeah, it's a big zoning issue. That's
right.
the general.
And we literally don't have it. So in Houston, you can have neighborhood with $1 million, $2 million houses, and then one street over you can have a storage unit, and then one street over you can have a series of bars and restaurants, and then one street over a factory, and it can all be within the exact same neighborhood. We literally don't have zoning like most of the rest of the country does for big cities. So
we're not talking about going out to the burbs either, where it's a lot more like the zoning is actually
right, not at all
very defined and stuff like that.
So with that, you'll have a very crowded neighborhood full of lots of tightly packed houses because Houston's a very dense, very heavily populated city, and all of a sudden, bars and clubs and restaurants will pop up literally within those houses in that community. And I feel absolutely horrible for those poor people that have to endure the noise, because you can have, your family home that you struggle to afford every month. You finally settled in, you're there, you've got your sleeping baby, and next thing you know, there's a bar next door thumping until 2:00 in the morning with a line out the door. It's a real problem.
Yeah, but do you think that, and this is kind of where I'm on the fence with this, do you think that people should accept the fact that they live in the city, and when you know that there's bars and restaurants close in the area, that it's something you need to accept, knowing that? Now, and I guess it's a little different if you've been there first and something pops up, so I can understand, which is kind of the case with this person who they were talking to in the article, who wore the earplugs. But even still, knowing that you're in a city, it's like, let's jump out of Houston for a minute. Let's go to New York, right? New York, they taught the city that never sleeps, right? Or is that Vegas?
New York.
New York. Okay. I wanted to make sure I got that right.
Yeah.
I mean, Vegas doesn't sleep either, but
No, you can bring on the methamphetamines. They're both up all night.
But I'm just saying. So let's talk about that, because if you are in a city that is always busy, has things going on all hours of the night, you can go get Chinese food at 3 a.m. or whatever, or go into Little Italy and be there for forever, wherever you're going, there's always something going on, and you have to kind of, I guess, accept the fact that this is where I live and these are the things that go on, and I must adapt myself to them.
I think there's a bit of buyer beware. I think there's a bit of realism that people that live in a big city have to become comfortable with, to your point. But let's use New York City as your example. You can't go to Brooklyn, buy up an old brownstone and turn it into a nightclub. It's not allowed because they have zoning.
Yeah.
So it is a bit different here. But yeah, I mean, I do think if you buy the house,
but that's not gonna stop like noisy neighbors or people that are partying and things like that, right?
No, of course not. They have their own sound ordinances and all that to handle that. But yeah, I mean, if you go buy a home next to a bunch of noisy nightclubs, of course you know what you're buying. But for people that didn't do that, it's a real problem. So I think that.
So is it the owner's fault then?
No, I think
for the restaurants or bars in this case.
I think you have to have a balance, right? I think that it's asinine for any bar, let's say, to say, between 11 and 2:00, the difference between 58 decibels and 75 decibels is going to ruin my business, because that's nonsense.
I guess it wouldn't really be that good of a place.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're like,
if your crowd's leaving because fuck, that 25 I can hear
decibels?
People now, I'm out of here. This place sucks. Yeah,
they're not giving me those extra 25 decibels.
Yeah,
peace out.
I think that
I don't care that it's free wings.
Right. you have other business model problems if you're losing clientele because you're not, rattling people's windows from a block away.
Well, and again, if you have a performer or somebody that is a big name or something that shows up at your place and is doing that, obviously that's going to draw in more people. So you're going to have a bigger crowd at that, with that. And yes, telling you to keep it down in that situation, that would hurt your business.
Yeah.
I mean, people wouldn't want to hang around for that.
Yeah. I do think that if this does pass, there should be caveats and there should be exceptions. For example, New Year's Eve, right? Yeah, within reason, okay, you have to cut New Year's Eve off at some point, but when you're talking about the single largest celebratory day for bars in the country, it's like, well, they should probably get a bit of a pass, right? Maybe extend it
is
till
New
after
Year's the only
midnight.
one that you would do that?
I don't know. Probably. Part of the problem is that if you give out too many free passes, you start.
That's what I'm saying, because then you got to look at
St. Patty's Day.
Then you got to look at
July 4th,
Halloween,
sure.
Super Bowl, all those days that are
Sure.
massive big drinking days, right?
Yeah, and part of the problem is if you start getting out passes, you really do start to kind of feed bad behavior.
I was about to say Valentine's Day, but that's definitely not.
Let's get crazy.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was about to say that would be one heck of an interesting Valentine's Day. It was a rager.
It's the day for love. Thank you, Houston. Good night. Yeah. But I do think that what happens is if you set the limits and you don't stick with them pretty thoroughly, then yeah, you're going to have a problem where it's like, oh, it's rager night because we get to be louder tonight.
Yeah.
But come on, like again, the difference is significant for people trying to sleep. It's not significant for the bar crowd between 58 and 75 decibels. I think it's perfectly reasonable. So I do hope it passes. Now, how they're going to enforce it?
Well, okay, and that is my follow-up with that. I don't know how it's going to be enforced. I really don't, because they are saying that it was basically a $1,000 fine for a noise violation or anything like that. Now it's going to be $2,000. And I'm like, well, if people really aren't paying attention to a $1,000 fine, I don't think $2,000 is really going to make a mark and them go, oh, we got to watch that $2,000 fine's coming.
Well, it needs to be a scale, right? It needs to be like a 3-strike system or something like that.
And maybe that is, who knows?
It is easy to detect sound now. Hell, my Apple Watch will tell me exactly what decibel rating there is around me. And that, talk about an old man feature. It's like, be careful. It's a little loud in here.
Well, yeah, I don't have the new one, so I don't have.
I don't have the new one either. It's not even the new one. It's two generations old.
Do
still does it.
You have fall protection on yours?
I do.
Yeah. See, you need that more than
I should probably turn that on.
I was to say you should turn that on.
It's disabled. Maybe I should enable it. Especially if I'm going to be going over any door jams in China, because I'm going down.
I was running from that spirit. I just didn't have time to get over.
Quick jump. It can't follow you. It doesn't have.
I'm not a high hurdler. Okay. Well, what do you guys think? Let us know. Does your neighborhood have a zoning, a noise ordinance, and is it zoned for things like that? I mean, it's just very interesting that this has kind of come up in our city, being one of the loudest
cities there is.
Larger.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the larger cities in the U.S. We're the 4th largest city in the U.S. And it's very interesting that this problem is now being tackled.
Yeah. So what's worse? What's worse, the bar next door thumping until 2 a.m. or the house next door where they give like the 11-year-old a drum set for his birthday?
Ooh, I would honestly, I don't know. That is a tough call. I was that kid with the drum set in the garage.
Yeah, my
But
cousin,
again, I wasn't like wall to wall. I wasn't in a townhome or something playing the drum set.
Yeah.
I was in a house.
my cousin's daughter got a drum set when she was very young, and she became a very talented young drummer. But at first, I bet it was rough on the neighbors.
Yeah, it's like,
they have a pretty big yard, thankfully, some distance.
Well, as I say, that my neighbors, when the garage and stuff, I had that too. But when you can hear stuff. Sound travels. I mean, sound does travel, so you can hear things going on. I'd probably have to take the drummer next door, only because for me, I'd want to get my guitar out and go jam with them.
There you go.
Maybe that might include, but also,
because you're a good neighbor.
Well,
don't knock. Just walk in with the guitar.
Yes, let's do it, man.
Stay true to the show.
But the thing is, the reason I would choose the drummer next door is because most likely they are not going to be playing at night. So even if you're at home, it's there's only so many hours somebody can drum before their arms just fall off, right?
That's true.
You know, so you can go somewhere else if it's bothering you that much, or you can ask them if you are doing something. Hey, I got this to do. Is it cool that you chill out for a little while? You know, you got the bar next door. You can't walk in and be like, dude, I got to get up in 3 hours. Can you guys turn it down?
It's
you,
true.
You know,
and in fairness,
and you got to deal with drunks. I shouldn't say everyone that goes to the bar is a drunk. That's a misconception. But you got to deal with people drinking and a lot of other people with very strong opinions about you telling them to stop having fun.
Yeah, strong opinions and large fists.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
a problem. And I will say that if the 11-year-old next door is drumming at 1 a.m., then his parents probably are thumping at the bar next door. So
that's true. It's like, well, it's either there or there.
It is interesting, though. It'd be interesting to see how it unfolds. What do y'all think? Post up on our social media. Are you for sound ordinances and laws like this, or are we just old fuddy-duddies and fascists who don't know how to have a good time?
You know, I think it's a little mix of both, but I don't. I think I would feel like that. I would feel this way if I was. I think anywhere outside of college, getting out of college. I think when I was in college, I could have cared less.
I've heard stories.
Yeah. I mean,
you were definitely that guy next door.
I was the guy next door. But of course, I lived in a college town, and most of the people around the area that lived next door to us or within, you know, we knew them and they knew us. So this wasn't, you know, it wasn't like, oh, there's a new family that just moved in. No,
Right.
It was a lot more college kids and other people that our age and things that would party and things like that. So we were okay with it. And they were okay with it. In fact, I had my drums out in the back. I had my drums in college, and then we had this back house, but it was supposed to be converted into a sauna, and they never finished it. So it was just this wooden, like, enclosed house. So it became like the late night party hangout after, you know, if we wanted to be outside. And I stuck my drums in there. We rigged up a TV and stuff. And so there would be some nights that we would just be going and it was like, hey, let's jam. And so we'd get on, we'd turn up like a stereo and I'd get on the drums. And it was probably about, I'd say about 3 feet, like distance, maybe 6 feet, maybe 6 feet distance between that little house and the window to the house next door. And there was one night that I swear we went off one night, and I had told him the next day, I go, man, I am so sorry. And I think he had such a good time that he just passed out and had no idea.
That's hilarious.
He was just like, what? What are you talking about?
See, you know you went to college in the South when you can tell stories like that. If I had done that where I was in school, we'd be frozen to death in about 45 minutes. So, you know, there's no playing outside.
No, I mean, it gets cold. It gets cold in West Texas, but no, not like sub-freezing temperatures or anything like
15,
that.
20 below. Yeah.
No, not quite that low. Not quite that low. So, but anyway, let us know what you guys think, you know? I don't know. I'm kind of curious. Was this guy right to be complaining about it? So, but
fuddy-duddy.
I know. But let's get into a little bit of some neighborly advice, which actually goes along the lines of what we're talking about.
Ooh.
You know, and not to sound and be on this whole keep your noise down, but it's getting warmer out. It's summertime. It's nice. You're gonna want to go to the pool. You're gonna want to catch those rays. Put on that sunscreen. Pour a nice little drink. Sit by the pool, enjoy it. Maybe bring out a little Bluetooth speaker, put on some music. But you know what you shouldn't do? Crank that music up if you don't know everyone around the area and it's not a private pool.
Oh, you live in an apartment complex.
I do. I have nothing against people playing music, but the fact is, take a little scan. Just look around.
You and JBL are going to have words. Just like...
I mean, just like, oh, there's a group of people over there. Then there's a family over there. Maybe I should ask them, are you guys cool with this style of music? And then, you know, keep it at a reasonable level. But, I don't need to hear hardcore rap.
That's good.
You know,
advice.
like around like young kids. And we're talking about like younger kids that,
Yeah.
we're not, just take a scan. Yeah. Just look around.
That's good neighborly advice. And if that doesn't work, try this. Hey, is that the new Bose? Can I see that? Sploomp. Is that waterproof?
Sorry, man. Just testing the product.
Yeah, does Bluetooth work for 13 feet of water?
I just wanted to see if you can get up to 75 decibels underwater. That's what you do.
Looks like just like a torpedo blast.
Just a new little fountain in
Bunch
the pool.
of soap people all around. Well, that's the base. It really thumps.
Yeah, that was like a good product, man. You should get another one of those. But I will say, if that's not your jam and you're like, well, I don't do that. Well, then I'll just tell you this. Put on some sunscreen this summer. So protect yourself from those UVs.
Here you go. Be polite, don't get cancer.
That's
Hey,
right.
all right.
That's right. It is real. But I don't know. I think we're ready to wrap this one up.
I think so, Brian. Thanks for stopping by, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's kind of great. But, we have a very special episode next week.
We sure do. Our season finale. So thank you all for stopping by and for listening. But please do be sure to check that out because it was ultra special.
Yeah, you guys are going to not want to miss the season 4 finale. Very, very special episode. Also, if you guys want to leave us a message, an audio message, or get an audio message back from us, you can go to our link for our pod inbox, and you can find Neighbors Don't Knock. Check out the link, and you can leave us a message for free.
Yeah, it's very cool.
For free.
Interact with us, please. We love hearing
Yeah, I
from you.
love hearing from you guys. And if you feel like leaving a little something for us, hey, that option is in there too. But, I think I'd love to hear from all of you more often.
Show the love.
That's right. Make sure you check out other episodes, and, there's going to be some teasers coming out.
Ooh, season 5 teasers. I like
Season
it.
5.
I like it.
All right. Well, we'll catch you guys next week with that special episode. Have a great week. Peace.
Out. Turn it down.